What would you do if your husband caught you with your ex and destroyed your entire life in less than 24 hours? I'm Eva Minth, and I thought I was smarter than everyone else. I was dead wrong. It started 3 weeks ago when Jace texted me out of nowhere. "Hey, Eva, I know it's been 2 years, but I really need closure. Can we talk?" I stared at my phone in the hospital scheduling office where I work. Jace Renfeld, my ex from before Simon, the one who got away, or so I told myself. The barista-turned-tech support guy who always made me feel alive in ways my methodical husband never could. "What kind of closure?" I texted back, my heart racing. "Just coffee. I need to understand why we ended. It's eating me up inside." I should have deleted his number right then. Instead, I found myself typing, "Okay, but just coffee." That evening, I approached my husband Simon carefully. He was in his building maintenance office, reviewing security footage like he did every night. Simon Minth, 37 years old, ex-military sniper spotter, now superintendent of our apartment complex. Everything about him was precise, calculated, cold. "Honey, I need to tell you something," I said, leaning against his doorframe. He looked up from his monitors, those grey eyes studying me. "What's up?" "My ex, Jace, reached out. He says he needs closure about our relationship, just wants to talk." Simon's expression didn't change. "And?" "I think I should meet with him. Just once. Put it to rest, you know." "Eva, why would you want to revisit that?" I had my answer ready. "Because he seems really troubled by it. And honestly, I think it would help me too. Close that chapter completely so I can focus on us." Simon was quiet for a long moment. "Where would you meet?" "Just coffee somewhere. Maybe his place. It would be more private for that kind of conversation." "His apartment?" "Simon, it's just talking. He needs closure and then it's done forever." My husband's fingers drummed once on his desk. "If that's what you think is best." I kissed his forehead. "You're the best. I love how understanding you are." What I didn't see was Simon's reflection in his computer monitor, the way his jaw tightened as I walked away. The next day, I called my best friend Dina Wu at work. "I need you to cover for me if Simon asks. I'm meeting Jace tomorrow afternoon." "Eva, are you sure about this? You've been married to Simon for 8 years. It's just closure, Dinah. Nothing's going to happen." "Then why do you need me to cover?" "Because Simon might overthink it. You know how he is with his security paranoia." Dina sighed. "Fine, but be careful." I also called my Aunt Roz, Simon's biggest critic in our family. "You were right about Simon being too controlling," I told her. "He's actually okay with me meeting Jace, which surprises me." "Maybe he's finally learning to trust you," Roz said. "Though I still think you could do better than Mr. Robot." That made me laugh. Simon's methodical nature had always annoyed my family. They saw him as cold, unromantic. They didn't understand that some of us needed more passion in our lives. But Simon's mother Lynette was a different story. When she came by that evening to see our 7-year-old daughter Mila, she pulled me aside. "I heard you're meeting with an ex-boyfriend," she said, her voice ice cold. "It's just closure, Lynette. Nothing inappropriate." "Closure." She repeated the word like it tasted bitter. "Eva, I've seen a lot of women use that word. It never means what they claim it means." "Well, in this case, it does." Lynette's pale eyes studied me. "For Simon's sake, I hope you're telling the truth." After she left, I found myself irritated. Why was everyone making such a big deal about this? Jace and I were adults. We could handle a simple conversation about our past relationship. That night, as Simon and I lay in bed, I brought it up again. "I'm meeting Jace tomorrow afternoon, just so you know." "Mm-hmm." Simon was reading some building maintenance manual. "You're not worried?" "Should I be?" "Of course not. It's just closure." Simon marked his place in the book and looked at me. "Eva, I trust you to make the right decisions." Something in his tone made me pause, but then he kissed my forehead and turned off his lamp, and I decided I was overthinking it. The next morning, I told Mila I'd be home late from work. "Mummy has a meeting." "What kind of meeting?" she asked, those big brown eyes so serious. "Just work stuff, sweetheart." But Mila had always been perceptive. She watched me apply extra makeup, choose my outfit more carefully than usual. She didn't say anything, but I could feel her studying me. At the hospital, I made sure to tell my supervisor I had an off-site scheduling meeting. Then I texted Jace, "Still on for 2 p.m.? "Yes, can't wait to see you." My pulse quickened. It was just closure, I reminded myself. Just two adults having an honest conversation about their past. But as I left work early, claiming a sudden headache, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was crossing a line I'd never be able to uncross. What I didn't know was that Simon had already crossed a line of his own. That morning, he'd installed a silent motion sensor in the hallway outside Jace's apartment. Every entry and exit would be time-stamped and logged. His military training had taught him to gather intelligence before taking action. And Simon Minth was very, very good at gathering intelligence. I arrived at Jace's apartment at exactly 2 p.m., my heart pounding like I was 17 again. He lived in a converted warehouse building downtown, the kind of trendy place that Simon would call overpriced and impractical. Jace opened the door, wearing that crooked smile I remembered. Still lean, still had that messy brown hair that looked effortlessly perfect. "Eva, wow, you look incredible." "Thanks, you look good too." His apartment was exactly what I expected. Exposed brick, minimal furniture, expensive coffee equipment. Very different from our family-friendly place, with Mila's toys everywhere, and Simon's practical furniture. "Coffee?" Jace asked. "Sure." As he prepared our drinks, we made small talk about work, mutual friends, the weather. But there was an undercurrent of electricity I hadn't felt in years. When he handed me the cup, our fingers brushed, and I felt that old familiar spark. "So," I said, settling onto his couch, "you wanted closure." Jace sat beside me, closer than necessary. "I've been thinking about us a lot lately, about what went wrong. We were young. We wanted different things. Did we? Or did we just get scared?" I took a sip of coffee to buy time. "Jace, I'm married now. I have a daughter." "I know, and I'm not trying to break up your marriage. I need to understand. We were so good together, Eva. The chemistry, the connection. What happened?" His hand moved to my knee. I should have moved away. Instead, I found myself leaning closer. "You know what happened. You weren't ready to settle down." "I was 25 and stupid. I'm 35 now. I know what I lost." The conversation continued for an hour, growing more intimate by the minute. He told me about his failed relationships, how none of them compared to what we'd had. I found myself sharing things about my marriage I'd never said out loud. How Simon was emotionally distant, how routine our life had become, how I sometimes felt more like his business partner than his wife. "You deserve passion, Eva. You deserve to feel alive." When he kissed me, I didn't pull away. When he suggested we move to the bedroom, I followed. When he started undressing me, I helped. "This is just closure," I whispered as we fell onto his bed. "Just closure," he agreed, his lips on my neck. For 2 hours, I forgot about Simon, about Mila, about my responsibilities. I was just Eva again. Not Eva the wife, Eva the mother, Eva the hospital scheduler. Just me, feeling desired and reckless and free. Afterward, as we lay tangled in his sheets, Jace traced patterns on my bare shoulder. "I've missed this, missed you." "Jace, I know, you're married. But Eva, what if this is the universe giving us a second chance?" Before I could answer, we heard a key turning in the front door. "Did you give someone a key?" I whispered, panic shooting through me. Jace's face went white. "No, nobody has a key." Heavy footsteps moved through the apartment, methodical, purposeful. My blood turned to ice because I knew those footsteps. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. The bedroom door opened. Simon stood there in his maintenance uniform, master key in one hand, his body-worn GoPro camera recording everything. His face was completely calm, which somehow made it infinitely more terrifying than if he'd been screaming. "It's not what it looks like," I shrieked, grabbing for the sheets. Simon's grey eyes moved from me to Jace, who was scrambling to cover himself. "It looks like my wife is having sex with her ex-boyfriend in his bed after telling me she needed closure." "Simon, please, let me explain." The GoPro has been recording for 30 seconds. Audio and video. Timestamp overlay shows today's date and time. It's already uploading to the cloud. My blood froze. "Delete it. Please, just delete it." "I can't. It's automatic backup for liability protection. Company policy for all building maintenance staff." Jace found his voice. "Dude, you can't just walk into my apartment." "I'm the building superintendent. I have master access for emergencies and maintenance. This building is owned by my employer. You're a tenant." Simon's voice never changed tone. "Eva, get dressed. We're leaving." "Simon, wait. Now." I'd never heard that tone from him before. It was the voice of someone who'd been trained to give orders in life or death situations. I fumbled for my clothes, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get dressed. "Eva, don't go with him," Jace said. "He's being controlling." Simon turned that terrifying calm gaze on him. "Jace Renfeld, apartment 4B. Lease expires in 6 months. I suggest you stay out of this." The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Jace shut up. As I finished dressing, Simon spoke into his radio. "This is Minth. I need the locksmith at Building A, Unit 3C. Emergency lock change. ETA 10 minutes. "Simon, what are you doing?" "Securing the premises." He walked out. I followed, leaving Jace staring after us in shock. In the hallway, I grabbed Simon's arm. "Please, can we talk about this?" He looked down at my hand on his sleeve. "You can retrieve your belongings through an attorney. Keys are voided as of now. You're trespassed from the property." "You can't do this." "Building policy. Residents who pose a security risk can be removed immediately." He keyed his radio again. "This is Minth. I need security to escort a trespassed individual off the property." That's when I realized Simon hadn't just caught me cheating. He'd planned this entire thing. The master key, the GoPro, the immediate locksmith call, the security escort. This was a military-style operation. "How long have you known?" I whispered. Simon stopped walking and looked at me with those cold grey eyes. "Motion sensor in the hallway has been logging your visits for 3 weeks. Every entry, every exit, time-stamped. 4-hour windows, Eva. That's not closure. That's an affair." My legs almost gave out. 3 weeks? You've been here 11 times. I have the complete log." The locksmith was already at our apartment door when we arrived. Simon handed him a work order that was already filled out, signed, and dated. "How is this possible so fast?" "I called it in an hour ago." An hour ago. While I was in bed with Jace, Simon had been calmly arranging to lock me out of my own home. The precision of it was terrifying. "What about Mila?" "Mila will be fine. She's at my mother's after school today." Of course, he'd planned for that too. I watched in horror as the locksmith changed our locks. My neighbours were starting to gather, drawn by the commotion. Mrs. Patterson from 3A, the young couple from 3D, old Mr. Kim from down the hall. They were all watching me get locked out of my own home. "Simon, please, I'm sorry. It was a mistake." "It was 11 mistakes over 3 weeks. That's not a mistake. That's a choice." The locksmith finished and handed Simon the new keys. Simon tipped him and sent him on his way. Then he disappeared into our apartment and emerged 10 minutes later with 3 cardboard boxes. "Your personal items, clothes, toiletries, jewelry, everything else stays." He set the boxes in the hallway and placed a typed note on top. I grabbed it with shaking hands. "Eva, retrieve remaining belongings through attorney only. All keys voided. You are trespassed from this property and all properties managed by North Point Property Management, 47 buildings citywide. Any attempt to contact me directly will be considered harassment. Eva Minth, Building Superintendent. You can't do this to me. But Simon was already closing the door. I heard the new deadbolt slide into place. I stood in that hallway, surrounded by my hastily packed belongings, with a dozen neighbors staring at me. My phone was buzzing with notifications, but my hands were shaking too badly to check them. That's when I realized the GoPro footage wasn't just evidence of my affair. It was evidence of Simon's perfect, calculated revenge. And this was only the beginning. I stood in that hallway for 20 minutes, staring at the door to what used to be my home. My neighbors had mostly dispersed, but I could feel eyes watching from behind peepholes. The shame was suffocating. My phone kept buzzing. Finally, I checked it. 15 missed calls from Jace, 23 text messages from various people, and one message from Simon's lawyer. Mrs. Minth, I represent your husband in a domestic matter. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience to arrange retrieval of remaining personal property. David Thornton-esque. A lawyer. He'd already called a lawyer. I tried calling Simon, straight to voicemail. I tried texting. The messages showed as delivered, but no response. I even tried the building maintenance emergency line. North Point Property Management, this is dispatch. This is Eva Minth. I need to speak to my husband, Simon Minth. Ma'am, I show you're listed as trespassed from all company properties. I can't help you. Trespassed. From 47 buildings citywide. Simon hadn't just locked me out of our home, he'd locked me out of nearly half the rental properties in the city. I called Jace back. Eva, are you okay? That was insane. Your husband is psychotic. Jace, I need somewhere to stay tonight. Silence. Tonight. He locked me out. Changed the locks. I have nowhere to go. Eva, I don't know if that's a good idea. Your husband knows where I live. He has master keys. Please, just for tonight. Another long pause. Okay, but just tonight. This is too intense for me. I dragged my boxes back to Jace's building, past the same neighbors who'd watched Simon escort me out 2 hours earlier. The humiliation was unbearable. Jace helped me carry the boxes upstairs, but he was nervous, constantly checking the hallway. I can't believe he recorded us. That's probably illegal. He said it was company policy, liability protection. We should call the police. And tell them what? That my husband caught me cheating and locked me out. Jace didn't have an answer for that. I tried calling my support system. First, Aunt Roz. Eva, what's wrong? You sound upset. Simon found out about Jace. He locked me out of the apartment. What? How did he find out? I couldn't bring myself to tell her about the recording. He knew. Roz, I need help. He won't talk to me. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry, but Eva, what exactly were you doing with this Jace person? The question caught me off guard. We were just talking, getting closure. For 3 weeks? My stomach dropped. What? Simon called me an hour ago. He said you've been seeing this man for 3 weeks, that he has proof. Simon called you. He wanted me to know before I heard it from someone else. Eva, he sounded different, colder than I've ever heard him. I felt the walls closing in. What did he tell you exactly? That you've been having an affair, that he has video evidence, that you lied to everyone about what you were doing. Roz's voice was getting sharper. Eva, please tell me he's wrong. I couldn't answer. Oh my God, Eva, what have you done? I hung up and immediately called Dinah. Eva, I've been trying to call you. What's happening? Simon's lawyer called my work asking about covering for your meetings. His lawyer called your work. They want to depose me. Eva, what's going on? Simon found out about Jace. He's taking this way too far. Found out what about Jace? The same question everyone was asking. The question I couldn't answer honestly. Dina, you're my best friend. I need you to back me up here. Back you up how? Tell them it was just closure meetings. Nothing inappropriate happened. Long silence. Eva, did something inappropriate happen? It's complicated. Oh no, Eva. What did you do? I made a mistake, okay, but Simon is destroying my life over it. He locked me out of our home. He called a lawyer. He's trying to turn everyone against me. Eva, if you cheated on Simon, it wasn't cheating. It was closure that got out of hand. That's still cheating. Whose side are you on? I'm on the side of not lying in court. Eva, they want me to testify under oath. I could go to jail for perjury. The call ended. My best friend had just abandoned me. I tried calling Simon's mother, Lynette, thinking maybe she could talk sense into him. Eva, her voice was arctic. I wondered when you'd call. Lynette, Simon is overreacting. We need to talk about this like adults. Adults? You mean like how you acted like an adult when you lied to my son for 3 weeks? It wasn't 3 weeks of lying. Eva, Simon showed me the motion sensor logs. 11 visits, 43 hours total. You want to explain that? 43 hours. Simon had been tracking me down to the minute. Lynette, please. I made a mistake, but Simon is being vindictive. What about Mila? She needs her mother. Mila is fine. She's with me, and she'll stay with me until this is sorted out. You can't keep my daughter from me. I'm not keeping her from you, but I'm not exposing her to whatever chaos you've created either. I want to talk to her. No, you can't. Eva, my son is the most loyal, steady man I know. He would have forgiven almost anything if you'd been honest. But you lied, you manipulated, you made him look like a fool. Her voice was getting sharper. And now you're calling me trying to manipulate me too. It's not going to work. She hung up. I sat in Jace's apartment, surrounded by my hastily packed belongings, and realized the scope of Simon's strategy. This wasn't an emotional reaction to catching me cheating. This was a coordinated campaign. The motion sensor logs meant he'd known for weeks, maybe from the very beginning. He'd let me lie to him, let me think I was getting away with it, while he gathered evidence. The GoPro, the immediate lock change, the lawyer, the calls to my family and friends. He'd planned all of it. Jace, I think I'm in serious trouble. Jace was pacing his apartment, running his hands through his hair. Eva, I can't be in the middle of this. Your husband is scary. The way he looked at me, and he has master keys to this building. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe you should find somewhere else to stay. My lease is up in 6 months. I can't afford to make enemies with the building management. Even Jace was abandoning me. That night, I lay on his couch, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out how my life had imploded so completely in one afternoon. I'd woken up that morning as Eva Minth, wife, mother, hospital scheduler. I had a home, a family, a support system. Now I was homeless, friendless, and facing a legal battle I didn't understand against a husband who'd apparently been planning this for weeks. My phone buzzed with one final message of the day. Motion sensor shows you returned to suspect location at 6:47 p.m. Recommend alternative accommodation. S. Minth, property manager. He was still watching, still tracking my every move. I realized then that I'd never really known my husband at all. The quiet, methodical man I'd thought was boring and predictable was actually calculating and dangerous, and I'd just given him all the ammunition he needed to destroy me. I woke up on Jace's couch to my phone ringing at 7 a.m. Unknown number. Mrs. Minth, this is Rebecca Chen from Human Resources at Metropolitan Hospital. We need you to come in immediately. My blood went cold. Is everything okay? We've received a legal inquiry regarding your employment. Please report to my office before your shift starts. A legal inquiry. Simon's reach was extending to my workplace now. I got dressed quickly while Jace made coffee, both of us avoiding eye contact. The passionate reunion of yesterday felt like a lifetime ago. Eva, I've been thinking, he said as I grabbed my purse. maybe we should cool things off for a while, until your situation gets sorted out. My situation? The divorce thing. It's getting complicated. Jace, yesterday you said this might be the universe giving us a second chance. That was before your husband turned out to be some kind of military strategist. This is too intense for me. I stared at him. Less than 24 hours after sleeping together, after talking about second chances, he was already backing away. So, what am I supposed to do? I don't know, Eva, but I can't be your solution. I left without another word. At the hospital, Rebecca Chen was waiting with a stack of papers and a grim expression. Eva, we've received a subpoena for your employment records, specifically your time card data for the past month. A subpoena? Your husband's attorney is requesting documentation of your work hours. They seem to think there are discrepancies. My mouth went dry. All those times I'd left work early for meetings with Jace. All the times I'd claimed doctor appointments or errands. Rebecca, I can explain. Eva, according to the subpoena, you've been claiming full-time hours while conducting personal business during work time. That's time card fraud. It wasn't fraud. I made up the time. When? Your badge swipes show you leaving early 11 times in 3 weeks. There's no record of you making up those hours. 11 times. The same number as Simon's motion sensor logs. He'd cross-referenced everything. I'm suspending you pending investigation. You'll need to surrender your badge and parking pass. Rebecca, please, I need this job. Eva, if the investigation confirms time card fraud, you'll be terminated and will have to report it to the state licensing board. Hospital scheduling coordinators are licensed positions. I could lose my professional license. My entire career. I cleaned out my desk while my co-workers watched. Some looked sympathetic, others whispered among themselves. The shame was overwhelming. As I carried my personal items to the parking garage, my phone rang. Dina. Eva, I'm sorry about yesterday. I was in shock. Dina, thank God, I can't help you. What? Simon's lawyer served me with a deposition notice this morning. At my workplace, in front of my boss and co-workers. I'm sorry, but... Eva, they have our text messages, all of them. The ones where you asked me to cover for you. The ones where I agreed to lie to Simon about where you were. My knees nearly buckled. How do they have our texts? I don't know, but they're printed out and attached to the legal papers. Eva, I could lose my job too. I work for the county. I can't be involved in perjury. So you're abandoning me too. I'm protecting myself, which is what you should have done instead of cheating on your husband. She hung up. I sat in my car in the hospital parking garage, watching my life disintegrate in real time. My phone kept buzzing with notifications, Facebook messages from acquaintances who'd somehow heard about the situation. Missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Then I saw a post on social media that made my blood freeze. Dina had posted a vague status. Sometimes you find out people aren't who you thought they were. I can't and won't lie in court for anyone. Some bridges have to be burned for your own protection. Integrity and moving on. The comments were already starting. Mutual friends asking what happened. People speculating. My private humiliation was becoming public entertainment. I drove back to Jace's apartment, but when I got there, he was waiting in the lobby with my boxes. Eva, you can't stay here anymore. What? Why? Building management called. I got a lease violation notice. No unauthorized long-term guests. I've been here one night. They're saying any guest staying more than 24 hours needs to be registered and approved. And... He looked away. They're saying you're banned from the property anyway. Simon. Even when I thought I'd found refuge, he could still reach me. Jace, please. I have nowhere else to go. I'm sorry, Eva, but I can't risk my housing over this. Yesterday you said you missed me, that you'd never gotten over me. Yesterday was different. This is too complicated now. I loaded my boxes back into my car and drove aimlessly around the city. I tried calling a few hotels, but my credit cards were being declined. Simon must have frozen our joint accounts. Finally, I swallowed my pride and called Aunt Roz. "Ava, I was hoping you'd call." "Roz, I need help. I have nowhere to stay." "Honey, come over. We need to talk." I drove to Roz's house with relief flooding through me. At least someone was still on my side. But when I arrived, Roz's expression was serious, not welcoming. "Eva, sit down. We need to have an honest conversation." "Okay." "Simon called me again this morning. He sent me some things." "What kind of things?" Roz pulled out her tablet and showed me a folder of screenshots, text messages between Jace and me, Venmo payments I'd sent him for dinner and coffee, credit card receipts for lingerie purchases I'd made the week before our first meeting. "Eva, this doesn't look like closure. This looks like you were planning an affair." I stared at the evidence. Simon had somehow accessed everything: my texts, my financial records, my purchase history. How did he get all this? Joint credit card statements are marital property. Phone records can be subpoenaed. Eva, did you really think you could hide this? "Roz, please. I made mistakes, but Simon is destroying my life." "Simon is protecting himself, and honestly, Eva, I don't blame him." "You're taking his side?" "I'm taking the side of truth. You lied to me. You lied to everyone. You made us all complicit in your deception." "So you won't help me either?" Roz sighed. "Eva, I love you, but I can't enable this behavior. You need to take responsibility for what you've done." "I need a place to stay." "There's a women's shelter downtown. They have temporary housing." "A shelter. My aunt was suggesting I go to a homeless shelter." I left Roz's house and spent that night in my car in a 24-hour diner parking lot. Every few hours, security would knock on my window and ask me to move along. By morning, I was exhausted, dirty, and desperate. I tried calling Simon one more time. "The number you have dialed is no longer accepting calls from this number." He'd blocked me. I tried calling from a payphone. It rang once and went to voicemail. "Simon, please. I know you're angry, but we need to talk. I'm homeless. I have nowhere to go. Please, for Mila's sake, can we work this out?" An hour later, I got a text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Minth, your husband has instructed me to inform you that all communication must go through legal counsel. Continuing to contact him directly will result in a restraining order. David Thornton, attorney." A restraining order. Simon was going to get a restraining order against me. I realized then that this wasn't just about catching me cheating. This was about completely erasing me from his life and Mila's life. Simon wasn't just angry. He was systematically destroying every connection I had, every support system, every avenue of return. And the most terrifying part was how calmly and legally he was doing it. No screaming, no violence, no drama. Just methodical, precise elimination of my entire existence. I was starting to understand that I hadn't just cheated on my husband. I'd declared war on someone much smarter and more prepared than I'd ever imagined. And I was losing badly. 3 days of living in my car had taught me that Simon wasn't bluffing about anything. I finally swallowed what was left of my pride and called the attorney number from his business card. "Thornton and Associates, this is David. This is Eva Minth. I need to discuss my situation with my husband." "Mrs. Minth, I've been expecting your call. Can you come in this afternoon?" "I don't have money for a lawyer. This is just a consultation. We need to discuss the divorce proceedings." Divorce proceedings. The word hit me like a physical blow. I showed up at the law office, still wearing yesterday's clothes, having cleaned up as best I could in a gas station bathroom. David Thornton was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 40s, with the kind of calm professionalism that reminded me uncomfortably of Simon. "Mrs. Minth, please have a seat. I need to inform you that I represent your husband in this matter. I'm not your attorney." "I understand. Your husband has filed for divorce on grounds of adultery and abandonment. He's also filing for emergency custody of your daughter." Emergency custody? Why? Thornton opened a thick folder. According to the petition, you've been cohabitating with your affair partner in unstable housing, you've been terminated from your employment for time card fraud, and you've demonstrated a pattern of deception and manipulation. I wasn't terminated, I was suspended. As of this morning, your termination is official. The hospital completed their investigation. My stomach dropped. How do you know that? Your former employer was required to notify the court as part of the custody proceedings. I was starting to understand the scope of Simon's legal strategy. This wasn't just a divorce. It was a comprehensive destruction of my credibility as a mother, an employee, and a person. Mr. Thornton, I made mistakes, but I'm still Mila's mother. Let me show you what we're working with. He opened his laptop and turned it toward me. On the screen was a timeline, professionally formatted, with dates, times, and evidence citations. March 3rd, first contact with affair partner via text message. March 5th, first meeting at affair partner's residence. Duration 3 hours 47 minutes per motion sensor log. March 7th, Venmo payment to affair partner, $85, memo dinner. March 10th, purchase of intimate apparel using joint credit card, $127. The timeline went on for pages. Every meeting, every lie, every financial transaction. Simon had documented everything with the precision of a military intelligence report. How is this level of detail even legal? Motion sensor data from building security systems, financial records from joint accounts, phone records from family plan accounts, employment records via subpoena, all perfectly legal. Thornton clicked to another screen. And then there's the direct evidence. Video stills from Simon's GoPro. My face was blurred for legal filing purposes, but the timestamp, location, and circumstances were crystal clear. Your husband was conducting a routine building inspection when he discovered the situation. The body camera is standard equipment for liability protection. Routine inspection. Mr. Renfeld had filed a maintenance request about a loose door handle. Your husband was responding to that request. Even the discovery had been orchestrated. Simon had probably prompted Jace to file the maintenance request somehow. Mrs. Minth, I need to be direct with you. Your husband has an airtight case. The evidence is overwhelming, and frankly, your credibility is completely destroyed. What does that mean for custody? Emergency custody has already been granted. Your husband has sole physical custody pending a full evaluation. I can't see my daughter? Supervised visitation only, and only if you can demonstrate stable housing and employment. I was homeless and unemployed. Simon had made sure of that. There's more. Thornton clicked to another document. Your affair partner has provided a sworn statement. Jace gave a statement? Full confession. Details of the affair, duration, his understanding that you were married. He's cooperating fully to avoid potential criminal charges. What criminal charges? Harassment, trespassing, interfering with a marriage. Your husband was prepared to file charges, but Mr. Renfeld's cooperation made that unnecessary. Jace had sold me out completely to save himself. Mr. Thornton, what are my options? Honestly, very limited. Your husband is prepared to offer a settlement, but the terms are non-negotiable. He slid a document across the desk. I read it with growing horror. Simon would get sole custody of Mila. He would get the apartment and all marital assets. I would get supervised visitation every other weekend, provided I maintained stable housing and employment. I would be responsible for my own attorney fees and would reimburse the marital estate for funds spent on the affair. This is everything. He's taking everything. Mrs. Minth, given the evidence, this is actually generous. If this goes to trial, you could end up with no custody at all. What about my things, my personal belongings? Already inventoried and available for pickup through a third party. When do I have to decide? The offer expires in 48 hours. After that, we proceed to trial. I left the law office in a daze. Simon had outmaneuvered me completely. Every move I'd made, he'd anticipated. Every support system I'd relied on, he'd systematically dismantled. That evening, I was sitting in my car outside a McDonald's, using their Wi-Fi to research divorce attorneys, when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Eva, it's Jace." "Jace?" My voice was flat. "I heard about the divorce papers. I'm sorry." "Sorry enough to recant your statement?" "Eva, they had security footage of me letting you into the building. They had records of every time you visited. I could have gone to jail." "So you threw me under the bus?" "I told the truth. Eva, what we did was wrong. We both knew you were married." "Yesterday you were talking about second chances. That was before I understood the consequences. Your husband he's not someone you want as an enemy." "What did he say to you?" "Nothing directly. His lawyer explained my legal exposure very clearly. Eva, did you know your husband has a military background? Sniper spotter, intelligence gathering, surveillance techniques." I hadn't known the details, but it was starting to make sense. "He played us, Eva. He let us think we were getting away with it while he built a case that would destroy both of us. I'm just lucky he's letting me walk away." "And I'm not lucky." "You're his wife. Were his wife. This is personal for him." After Jace hung up, I sat in that parking lot and finally understood what had happened. Simon hadn't caught me cheating. He'd allowed me to cheat while he systematically built an unbeatable legal case. Every lie I'd told, every meeting I'd had, every dollar I'd spent, he'd documented it all. He'd let me destroy myself while he prepared to pick up the pieces. The quiet, boring husband I'd thought I could outsmart had been 3 steps ahead of me the entire time. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Settlement offer expires tomorrow at 5 p.m. After that, we go to trial and seek full custody termination. Choose wisely. D. Thornton, attorney." I had less than 24 hours to decide whether to accept Simon's terms or risk losing my daughter forever. But really, the choice had been made weeks ago when I'd sent that first text to Jace. Everything since then had just been Simon's methodical execution of consequences I'd been too arrogant to see coming. I spent my last night before the settlement deadline in a 24-hour laundromat, trying to figure out if I had any moves left. I'd called every divorce attorney in the phone book. None would take my case without a substantial retainer, and the few who offered free consultations all said the same thing. Simon's evidence was overwhelming. At 4:30 p.m., 30 minutes before Thornton's deadline, I called his office. "I'll take the settlement." "Smart choice, Mrs. Minth. Can you be here at 9 a.m. tomorrow for the signing?" "Yes." "Come prepared to sign. Everything is already prepared." That night, I finally allowed myself to cry. Real ugly sobs in the front seat of my car. I'd lost everything. My home, my job, my daughter, my friends, my family. All for what I'd convinced myself was closure with an ex-boyfriend who'd thrown me away the moment things got difficult. The next morning, I cleaned up as best I could and drove to Thornton's office. Simon was already there, sitting calmly in the conference room, wearing a crisp white shirt and dark slacks. He looked rested, composed, completely in control. He didn't acknowledge me when I walked in. "Mrs. Minth," Thornton said, "let's review the terms one final time." He went through each point methodically. Sole custody to Simon, all marital assets to Simon, supervised visitation for me, contingent on stable housing and employment, reimbursement of marital funds spent on the affair, £1,247 in total, itemized down to the penny. "Any questions before we proceed?" I looked at Simon. "Can I talk to you, just for a minute?" Simon spoke for the first time. "Anything you want to say can be said here." "Simon, please, I know I hurt you, but we have a daughter together. We can work through this." "We had a daughter together. Now I have a daughter, and you have supervised visitation rights." "I made a mistake." You made 11 calculated decisions in 3 weeks, Simon said, voice flat as a scalpel. You lied to me, to family, to friends. You stole marital funds for your affair. You falsified your time card. Those weren't mistakes. They were choices. I reached for forgiveness like a life raft, but he didn't blink. You broke the vows. I'm honoring them by protecting Mila from someone who proved she can't trust. Thornton slid the pen over. My hands hovered. If I don't sign... Simon didn't threaten. He explained. Trial, public exhibits, GoPro footage filed forever, Jace under oath, co-workers testifying, everyone watching. You'd do that to Mila, I whispered. I'd do it for Mila, he answered, and the difference killed me. I signed. Each stroke erased a version of myself, wife, mother, homeowner, professional. Thornton collected the pages. The decree would be filed today, my first supervised visit scheduled like an appointment for a stranger. Simon paused at the door. You're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught, and you went back to him anyway. He left me with a quiet truth I couldn't outrun.